Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it's those family vacations of yesteryear that always bring up strife when families get a little older. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to assume that you do because, well, you're listening right now. Please subscribe to the podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating. Basically, wherever you get your podcasts. We're at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, pretty much everywhere. And plus, we archive all of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. You can find us at the Facebook, at the Twitter, and at the Instagram, as the kids call it, at In the Seats. Where else would we be? For all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. Well, boys and girls, it's time to go to The Lake, which is Amazon's first scripted original show in Ontario, shot here in Ontario. It's in Canada, really, but it's a fun comedy, and it's a relatable comedy too. I mean, it's the story of Justin, who returns from living abroad in the hopes of reconnecting with his biological daughter that he gave up for adoption, but his plans seem to go awry when he finds out his father left the family cottage to his stepsister, and needless to say that they don't get along very well. But I mean, it's a hilarious show which has dropped on the service today, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's pretty relatable, and it's again, seeing people at the cottage. It's as an Ontarian, it's something we're kind of used to, but it's a fun show. It's starring Julia Stiles and Jordan Gavaris, who you may know from Orphan Black and a few other things. But we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with Jordan to talk about getting a role here and shooting during COVID and being in isolation up in North Bay, which isn't the worst thing in the world if the weather's right. But it was a fun talk with Jordan, and it's an even funner show because I cannot recommend this enough. It's a really hilarious ride, but definitely check out The Lake, which is on Prime Video right now. But first, enjoy our talk with Jordan Gavaris, because between you and me, it's a pretty good one.
No, I mean, obviously, congrats on the show, man. Honestly, like it's a lot of it's really one of those things that caught me off guard, because it sort of hits that line between drama but then sort of deadpan hilarity at the same time. I guess my first question for you is, like, walk me through sort of the origin of like this script hitting your desk and you getting involved in the show.
Well, that really is what happened. The script actually did hit my desk, which almost never happens. But it had been a lot of testing and auditioning over the year prior, and there was a project that I came very close to doing, and then ultimately had to walk away, which was really sad. And it was just the process of the last few years has been waiting for something like The Lake. Orphan Black is a super tough act to follow, because that show was very special. And I knew I really wanted to do comedy, and I was waiting for something that was different, that hit different, and that spoke to me on a level that I maybe couldn't even articulate. And that's what happened. As soon as I read the pilot, which was sent to me by my representatives, I just connected immediately on an intuitive level. And when that happens, it's so much better than, working your performance process or working these psychological tricks to try to find your way into a script. When you just find your way in, when you're sort of roped in and the train is moving and you have no choice but to just ride, it's an amazing feeling. And that's exactly what happened with this show. And when I was reading Justin, I just knew immediately, I have to play this person. I know this person. I am this person. Maybe not in totality, but I am parts of this person, and I know the parts that I need in order to make him real. And it was just a fierce audition process where I was not going to stop until I got the part. And again, that doesn't happen often because I'm not naive enough to think like, well, if you just work really hard, the part's yours. Casting is a really tricky thing. And I just had to hope that they would see in me what I felt was there. And I auditioned a lot. There were a lot of meetings with Julian and the director and the producers, and a lot of testing, and obviously then the broadcast approval, and finally I got the part. And it was a process well worth it, because again, it had been so long since I read a character that I just knew in my bones.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you did, man, because I mean, it is such an entertaining piece of work. But I mean, I've got to ask, it feels like almost kismet that an Ontario boy would get the lead to be on something that shoots in North Bay.
And so close to, I was just saying, I spent a couple of summers in Muskoka, which is sort of, I think, part of Muskoka is somewhat represented in the conceit of this pilot and in the conceit of this world. And I spent summers on those lakes. The only thing that I was unfamiliar with was the canoe tilt. I knew everything else. Like I was saying, the blood feuds, the games, the food, the doing nothing, there's a feeling that those summers on the lakes have, like a real kind of, it's a very sensorial experience, the dew in the morning and the warm afternoon wind. And I feel like we actually managed to capture some of that on camera as well. The idea was that the audience would feel somewhat transported to the lakes, to feeling like, oh, it is summer. You can smell the water, or I think that the show's kind of a sensorial experience in that way.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, and it's especially an interesting thing to see it sort of developed and I guess even be shot during COVID, because I mean, people don't understand when you go up there, you are essentially in a bubble in and of yourself. But I mean, how was it to be able to shoot this sort of idyllic bubble at the middle of something where we're all trying to just sort of hunker down and hide, for our own reasons?
Oh man, it was great. Like really great. I spent the last year in my little townhouse in Los Angeles, not seeing anybody, being very COVID scared, because I just, I'm a hypochondriac, and COVID, a viral pandemic's not the greatest place for a hypochondriac, shockingly so. So I really, after being vaccinated and going to this somewhat remote town in Northern Ontario, it just felt so good to be around people and to feel, it just felt like summer camp. Nobody could go back to the city on the weekends because the drive is just that extra hour too long. So we were there. I mean, we were in North Bay for 3 months with only each other. And it was kind of miraculous, having, again, spent the year prior, just, in my house, building cabinets and trying not to panic about respiratory particulates. It was a little shocking at first, because I went from being around no one to being around a 250 person crew. But after a day, I mean, I just immediately relaxed and was so happy I got to be around people and get to do, on top of being around people, getting to do what I love to do. It was probably the best summer that I've had in a decade anyways.
Well, I've got to imagine it lends to sort of helping to build chemistry as well, because you've got such a great rapport with Madison, obviously, who plays your birth daughter, quote unquote, and then Julia, who as your sister / nemesis along the way,
I can't sing the praises of the actors in the show enough, because they made my job easier. They made everybody's job easier, just by being so, as you say, so available and so open to letting those relationships develop off screen, so that it was all there when we went to go turn the cameras on screen. And Madison, she has such ease in front of the camera, and she's so magnetic. You just want to watch her. I would sometimes just want to watch her even in the scenes, because she's so much, she's just really skilled with dialogue and timing, especially for someone so young. She's pretty spectacular. And Julia obviously is a veteran. So it was just easy. I mean, she was immediately open and so good as this icy. She was not icy off screen in any way, but I really allowed that to breathe on screen, and then just obviously made my job easy because all I had to do was respond to it. But the entire supporting cast, Travis Nelson and Natalie Lashinska and John Doerr and Terry Chen, like they were just so willing to. There were a lot of actors, you know, that you're on a remote shoot, they just go back to their hotel at the end of the day, but they were so willing to be involved and be available and be present. And I think you're right. I think it really helped all the relationships and characters on screen. It just made everything feel more believable.
No, I mean, obviously, as a working actor, I mean, there are going to be jobs that you'll end up taking which will be just a job. But I mean, in talking to you, it really feels like this has been way more than that. How important is it for not just you, but I mean, in general, to find projects like this where you're obviously creatively inspired and you're into it and you can understand the character to keep you going into future jobs?
I mean, it's kind of everything. Obviously, visibility is important for future jobs, and finding showcases for your strengths as an actor, because we can't do everything. No actor can do everything. So part of growing up as you spend more time in the industry is learning what you're really good at, and of course challenging yourself and stretching yourself. But this was something that I think, again, where why my excitement was so palpable when I read the pilot was it just played to all my strengths.
For sure.
That's the really easy part to step into. I wish I could sit here and say like, oh God, it was really tough. It wasn't. It was just really fun. And it was so fun to do a project that just required a lot of joy and kind of a big-heartedness. And, you know, I'd also never led anything before, so that was a little scary. But that I think was probably the most nerve-wracking of experience. Because that was the most nerve-wracking aspect of the experience, was just knowing like, wow, the buck stops with me, and I've got to make sure that, you know, I'm available to everybody and everybody's got what they need. And that was probably the most stressful aspect to it all, actually playing Justin and getting to show up to work every day and improvise and just have fun finding the funny and finding moments of pathos where we could. Like that part was easy, and it was also easy because the writing was so good, and that's just kind of a testament to Julian and the other writers. But it is, I think, again, partially shows like this, shows that I'm just looking forward as the industry evolves and as the landscape of media changes and we're all kind of becoming a little bit more global. I'm just looking forward to more Canadian themed series.
For sure.
Good. We have proved at this point, like we're good. We can do it too. And I think it's now just that things like streamers have opened up this world for us where people get to see our shows in a way that they maybe wouldn't have before. And it matters less and less where the show comes from. All that matters is whether or not it's good.
I agree with you 100%, man. I mean, just to start putting a bow on this, in watching this show, it feels like the kind of thing that down the road will inspire other people to tell their own stories and make their own shows or movies. And I've got to ask you, was there a movie or a show or a piece of work in general that sort of had the light bulb go off for you at a young age and make you want to get into this business?
Oh yeah, and I love telling this story because I get to talk about my favorite actor.
Do it.
It was Carrie. It was Carrie. It was Brian De Palma's Carrie. I was 15 years old and I was working at Blockbuster. It was my first job, renting people videos, and we got 10 free rentals a week, and I watched everything. I mean, truly everything. Oh, everything. I mean, obviously not some of the specialty stuff because Blockbuster's independent rack was kind of small, but the classics. And it was truly the first time that I'd ever been really moved by someone's work. And the movie's good, of course. Everybody in the 70s, I think, thought it was a B movie, and it's held up. So I think it's definitely more than a B movie. But watching Sissy Spacek work was this sort of profound experience for me where I thought, oh man, like actors you can make people feel things playing a fictional person. You can make people wish for the ending to be different no matter how many times they watch the movie. Like you can actually you have that power as a performer. Writing has that power, directing has that power. And it was this sort of watershed moment for me where I realized that films do have power. Storytelling has power. It can make you think and feel about people differently. It can change the lens by which you see the world. Like it does have, there is a profundity in it that I think gets overlooked sometimes because so much of it is about entertainment, but it is pretty special.
No, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, I think the show is special, and you know what? Congrats on the good work, and thank you so much for the time today, man. Keep it up.
Oh, thanks, Dave. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being such a champion of the show.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.